with the Water Forum. We strive to be informative, educational, and factual because facts are our friends. So join the conversation with John Heim. He's a clean water activist from Florida in the USA. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Water Hour. I'm your host, Brigetti Limbanda. I'm a live streaming advocate for social good initiatives. And on this show, we share water stories that are informational and hopefully will empower each of you to make smart water choices. Today, we are talking to John Heim from Florida in the United States. He's a river champion. He's also the leader of the South Florida Clean Water Movement, who organized over 80,000 people statewide. They held a death march protest last year that drew over 3,500 people. He's also the creator of the West Coast Florida River Kidz All Youth Eco Education Organization. He introduced Jill Stein to have us sign the Now or Everglades Declaration. He also met Hillary Clinton for clean water agendas. He protested for 150 days straight on the Mantanzas Pass bridge, demanding informational signs about water. And after 6 years of pressuring the town for signage, they have finally agreed recently to stop the protests. He's also Calusa Water Keeper Ranger and does independent water testing. He works with Dr. Parsons to build baselines with testing, and he's also a victim of toxic water, so it's taken a toll on his health. Welcome to the show, John.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the reaching out across the seas to recognize that we're all involved in this water crisis together. What's happening here in Southwest Florida is no different than what's happening in Cape Town, South Africa.
Well, that's just the point, and that was one of the reasons I was, reaching out to you, because water stories is not just a local issue. It's something that affects us globally wherever we live. And I was intrigued because I think there are some similarities that we share with you in Florida. To get the conversation started, how do you think your water quality compares to the rest of the world?
Our water quality compared to the rest of the world is, pretty dismal. And the world's water quality is becoming very dismal at a rapid pace. We've been suffering from something called the Lake Okeechobee discharges, which discharges chemical-laden water down our Caloosahatchee River and into our Gulf of Mexico. And that's been going on for years, not to mention sewage. And, these are at the hands of corporations who would rather dump their chemicals than, do the right thing and do responsible agriculture and such like that. But the point being is, the water quality in the globe and around the globe, not only here, is disintegrating at a rapid pace. And all in the name of greed, so it seems. We try to push a message to the power that are instituted, that run these, organizations such as world governments, and try to tell them that they cannot drink money. So how much is too much? Water is a basic human right. Without water, we don't have life, plain and simple.
I tend to agree with you. We put money into so many other things. In South Africa, for example, along with our water challenges, we also have an energy challenge. And what a lot of people don't get is that water supersedes anything else. It supersedes energy. Without water, we cannot do a single thing, and we need to make water management a priority. So, can you describe a typical day that you currently have uh, locally? What is your day involved?
Well, for the last, let's say, 10 years straight, I've been on the ground level as a statewide activist, not only observing and monitoring the degradation of our waterways. I grew up here for 8 years now on a 7 Mile island and completely watched our water quality disintegrate to nothing. And through that, I've traveled the state and progressed with education, and great minds have educated me to where I began to test the water and such like that to where I am presently. And in between, we're out there every day taking samples throughout the years and not knowing exactly what we're getting involved in. We were being told the whole time it was blue-green algae, when in reality it was a cyanobacteria that had obvious human health concerns, such as mental degeneration, liver damage, all the way down to ALS and such like that. So we feel as if a lot of us ground level activists who have been at it over the years are starting to see now the signs of mental degeneration and such like that when it comes to our health.
So, John, was this an accidental discovery because you were doing independent monitoring, and then also just following on that, what is the situation in Florida with regards to monitoring and evaluation of water samples and making that information public?
Okay, so yeah, like to answer the first part of the question was, I was not ignorant to it. I was fortunate enough to, be educated by some of our greatest minds here. You can imagine complacency here ruled the day forever, and it still does for the most part, but no one wanted to talk about it. So I was lucky enough to get around experts that were the minority in these fields, such as ecology, at a young age, and they had educated me. And I ended up becoming, through time, a polarized mouthpiece to get the message out. So we began to start protests, rallies, work with our media, and travel state. Been to the federal level, so Washington D.C. 5 times in quite a number of years since 2013. We lobby at our state capitol 8 times since 2013. So we do this as grassroots activists standing up for our community, because we've learned that if we don't have clean water, then we won't have tourism. We're a 100% tourism-based community, and without it, we won't be able to survive. So we're literally fighting for our lives as grassroots level, activists. They like to call us names like activists and rabble rousers and troublemakers, but the reality is we're community members, and we're basically trying to save our lives because we know without clean water, we can't survive here.
Right. So is there a lack of information to the public with regards to water? What is your regulation like in Florida?
Okay, lack of information is the highest peak ever. There was never any information. There are no signs to inform the people on any of the beach accesses of the potential dangers, such as flesh-eating disease or cyanobacteria, or any of these heavy metal elements or chemical compounds that are in the water. The government here has taken approach of deregulation. So that means there's been a huge cutback in actual testing, which has sprung up independent testing like ourselves. We're facing a complete cover up because, again, to repeat, we're 100% tourism town. It's kind of like Jaws, the movie, where, we, the activists, are like Sheriff Brody in the movie, and the political figures are like the mayor in the movie, saying, please get in the water, everything's fine. When in reality, tests are showing through scientists, everything's not fine. So people are getting sick. We've had people die of, flesh-eating disease, and yet the government has still failed to do the right thing when it comes up to being transparent and warning these people. So real lack of leadership when it comes to greed and fear, I would call it.
And your statistics around water pollution and how that's affect people's health, are those stats freely available? Water quality stats and health impact? Do you have any stats like that available, or are you having to create those? I think we've lost.
I'm sorry,
John.
I'm losing connection here. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Okay, we're just trying to get John back again. If you have,
I'm
in
sorry,
the meantime,
I can't hear the question. Something transmission went down.
Okay, that's all right. If you have any questions for John, please put them in the chat and let us know where you're watching from. John, let me know as soon as you can hear me. Okay, just waiting for John to get his connection back. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Twitter. We're live on LinkedIn. We are live on Periscope. So if you have any questions for us, please pop them in the chat and let us know where in the world you are watching us from. Let's see if John is back yet. John, are you able to hear me yet?
I have to see my audio transmission. I can see you, but I can't hear.
Okay,
would you like me to log back on?
Yes, I think that's what'll work. Yes, if you can just log back on, that'll be great. Okay, John, I'm going to remove you from the broadcast and then log back in again using the same connection.
Interesting.
I can hear you.
I think I'm going to have to log back on because I lost all audio transmission on this live feed.
Okay. Okay, thanks for hanging in with us. Just give us a moment. We are going to see if John can rejoin the broadcast. He should be back in just a moment. So the reason we wanted to do this is because there are a lot of similarities between Cape Town and what's been happening in the US, not just Cape Town, but South Africa. And this is why we wanted to reach out to John. It looks like he's back in the studio. So let's see if he's able to join us.
Thank you kindly. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Are you able to hear me now?
I am. Everything's back fine. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So the question was, with regards to your legislation, do you have any figures available with regards to the pollutants in the water and how that is affecting people's health? Are those documented?
The government is doing a great job, not only through deregulation, but covering up the truth. They're not giving out accurate information when it comes to the levels of the toxins. As a matter of fact, independent testers have caught and shown, through their own independent testing, that the DEP was not giving accurate information when it comes to the testing at all. So, excuse me, we're at a point now, and have been for quite a long time, that the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, the EPA, the state of Florida, the South Florida Water Management District, they are not doing their job when it comes to spreading information, viable information. So now what we're seeing is independent testers coming up. Not only that, but major universities like Florida Gulf Coast University is also doing a massive amount of independent testing, and that information is coming out. But shame on our local government to tell people that the levels are within range and at times not toxic when we know they are. And to add that, to have no warning signs, to send people that have no idea, including tourists, and visitors and homeowners and residents alike to go into the water. And then when you go to the hospital with these symptoms, the hospital goes and turns and says that you have a weak immune system and these faults are your own, not because of the water.
So how has that changed recently? Because you've been protesting about this lack of access to information. Tell us about what's happened recently in your neck of the woods.
Well, sure. I've been, believe it or not, protesting for 6 straight years on a bridge called the Mantanzas Pass Bridge, which connects to a town called Fort Myers Beach, Florida, 7 Mile Island. That's where I live. That's my hometown. And forever I've been lobbying the city council to erect signs with QR codes to where, the visitor, tourist, or resident alike could put their smartphone up to that QR code and get accurate, up-to-date information about the water and its quality and clarity, so you wouldn't have any questions of what, was in the water. We'll be able to tell you right then and there, in other words. And we worked on that for, 6 years. Like I said, it took me 90 straight protests at one point, 90 straight days of protests at one point on the bridge, 60 straight days of protests on the bridge demanding signs. That was 150 straight days. And then, the years have finally passed, and recently the town of Fort Myers Beach, has finally come to their senses, most likely because they don't want to get sued if someone gets ill or dies. And they have now put the signs up. But I would like to say the signs are up and the QR codes are up, but there's no information on the signs on the QR codes. You could put your phone up there presently, and it's basically a broken link. So we haven't gotten there yet. I give the town credit for putting QR codes up, but what good are the QR codes if there's no water quality information at all, or no information at all for that period?
Okay, so so basically, you've recently had this victory with the QR codes. What impact has that had on the local community?
I don't think the local community is necessarily paying attention. I think there's something here called complacency. I don't think we necessarily have a 100% water quality problem here. I think we have a telling the truth problem here. And with not telling the truth comes something called complacency, to where the information is not out there and the people just don't know yet that the signs and the QR codes are out there. And again, it's useless at this point because there are no information. But no media information, no newspaper articles. It's just basically us spreading the information on Facebook and social media to say what's happening step by step. And of course, holding our public officials accountable to get this out there. And it would be such a shame if they didn't take the extra mile to actually, tell the people of the resource that they have there. After all, water is our #1 precious commodity. You could imagine taking one of your young children or your grandchildren out there and not knowing, and these children get very sick because no one told them there was a sign right there that they could have used to get the proper information.
So was your concern mainly local residents or visitors? Because you said you're very dependent on the tourist industry where you are. So was your concern mainly for your local neighbors there, or for tourists, or both?
Well, yeah, I would answer that question of all people. I fight for clean water for not only human life, but, life in general. You've heard the phrase, water is life. I'm not fighting for just a geographical area or even the state of Florida. I'm fighting globally to have clean water recognized as a basic human right. And, that's steadfast as my mission and my goal. I'm not picking and choosing geographics. the reason I'm doing this is I hope it spreads onto other communities and other people are safe in the long term.
And the stats that you are able to obtain yourself, can people access this?
Yes, eventually once it's up, a website will be available, and I will, of course, share that website on a daily basis for people to, update. And I also work with a different program through a place called the Mound House, where we're just now, if you can believe this, all of these years we've had these water quality problems, and no one, including the government, it's the government's job, has created a baseline of, variations of water, contaminations, and ebbs and flows of, the water itself. So we're beginning a baseline through a place called the Mound House, where I'm personally working with a professor named Dr. Parsons, who is one of the head scientists on the newly formed harmful algae task force committee granted by Governor DeSantis. So we're literally beginning, it's like a baby. We're literally beginning from the baby steps to create baselines to find out annually, monthly, weekly, daily what's in our water.
So what is your roadmap for reinstating water and sanitation resilience?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Do you have a roadmap to reinstate water and sanitation resilience, given your,
Sure. I think personally, my roadmap is, excuse me, I can't personally solve the state's problems when it comes to water quality. I don't have enough money, influence, and as a matter of fact, the people who are in charge don't like me very much because I speak the truth about solutions. My goal is to spread the message of awareness for clean water for every community, not only here, but globally. I give a lot of speeches and such like that in universities. Matter of fact, next Friday I have a speech at Florida Gulf Coast University, where the message is the power of the video camera and its usage to social media has become a weapon in the fight for clean water because we're holding them accountable in real time. But the idea is, for me personally, is to, get around the globe, not just my own geographical area. Of course, I love my home and I want to see clean water here first and foremost, but doesn't mean the people down the road deserve dirty water just because we got it. We all deserve clean water, and that's a fact, because without it, you're seeing what's happening. The rich are seeing what's happening, and the shortage of water is becoming very evident. So you hear phrases like water, water everywhere, not a drop of drink. If you think the politicians are not paying attention to those kind of phrases, then you're not paying attention. So the availability of water is becoming a huge problem. And the more we educate ourselves on how to take care of our waterways and, like aquifers and such like that, there's no reason to drill into aquifers and deep well into aquifers. That ruins our drinking water supply. And, it just gets ridiculous. So education is the key to younger generations coming up. That's my personal goal, is to give speeches anywhere I can, PowerPoint presentations, videos, and, do what I can to educate people on the most precious resource known to man, water.
Yeah, it's amazing, the similarities. You were talking earlier about the tourism industry, in terms of water. People fail to see that water is an economic enabler. If we can clean our water and get the pollution under control, we can boost our local economies. Well, not just locally, but globally.
Correct. I'll give you an example. Just last year, we had the eco disaster happen here. So I live on Fort Myers Beach, which is 7 miles long, and our neighbor to the north is Sanibel Island. Both of these places are well known for, tourism destination. In just 3 months during the eco disaster, these two towns lost multiple billions, and I say billions with a capital B, in revenue. We also had people moving out of this area rather than moving in at a rapid pace. And the economy certainly took a hit. And if you don't think water has anything to do with money, you're absolutely not paying attention once again. So the real estate industry, the development industry, the tourism industry, all of them have a stake in this because it's all about us.
Right. And those are what I've referred to often as the unintended consequences of polluted water. Just recently I was speaking to Dr. Anthony Turton here, who's a water strategist, and he often speaks to, about the weaponization of water, which speaks to what you were talking about earlier. And we were talking about local hospitals here or areas where people are trucking in water for dialysis because the local water is not clean enough to use for dialysis. So there's all kinds of ramifications or unintended consequences if we don't get our water supply clean. Have I lost you? John, are you able to hear me? I think we've lost sound with John again. John, if you can hear me, can you refresh your link and see if we can get you back?
I'm back.
Okay, let's see if we can get John back again.
Okay.
John, do we have you back? Okay, your microphone is not on, John, and that's why we can't hear you. Your microphone is muted, if you can hear me. Your microphone is currently muted. John, we can't hear you. You need to unmute your microphone. Okay, I don't think John can hear me. I think the signal has probably too weak, and we cannot connect. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to invite John back again fairly soon, and we are hoping then to have a panel with some of our local water strategists as well. And we'll definitely have John back a second time. So John, I want to say a huge big thank you. Thank you to everyone who's watched us. And if you've got particular questions that you'd like to ask for the next stream, then please do let us know in the comments. And if you are a water strategist or in the field and you would like to be a guest or on the panel, then also please comment and let us know, and we can try and get that set up. I can see John's trying to get back in, but I think his signal is just too weak. So I want to say a huge big thank you to everyone who's joined us live today, and hopefully we'll be back again soon. We will advertise it before we go live. So thank you for joining us, and have a great day further.